What's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where me and my friend Brian over there talk about all the adaptations from comics into movies and streaming shows. Brian, I can't tell you how excited I am to talk to you about the Marvels.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not sensing a hint of sarcasm there, so that seems legitimate.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Because
Okay.
you and I, we usually kind of hint at things on messages before we get on these shows, right?
Yeah.
I actually have no idea what you think about this movie. I'm so curious as to how you feel about this movie.
Okay.
And then I have a view, and it seems like the whole world has a view. I wonder where you fit, my man.
Interesting. Okay. I kind of liked it.
Okay.
I like it better than the first one.
Okay. Keep it going.
Keep it going. I thought Miss Marvel kind of stole the show. I thought she was fantastic.
So far, same page. Okay.
What else? What else do I don't know. I really like the movie. I occasionally felt that there was it was a little cramped, or so that they definitely cut a few things out here and there to kind of make it shorter.
Okay.
But otherwise, I kind of liked it. It was just like a decent standalone movie, sort of. But even though you do kind of have to know a lot going into it, and it does set up a lot going into the future, so that's kind of contradictory. But I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I expected, I went in. I don't hate Captain Marvel or anything like that. I like Captain Marvel. It is kind of low on my rankings, but I like it better than the first one, like easily.
Okay. Nice. Okay, we're essentially exactly on the same page. Okay, I got a little worried. I thought that maybe you were going to say the opposite. It seems like a lot of people think this movie is bad.
I think people are just kind of jumping on the kind of like hate comic book movie hate train sort of lately, and just everyone likes to jump on and read about how all these movies are making less and less money as they go on. They're spending more and more, and yeah, that's true, I guess. I mean, and I think this movie did particularly bad the second week, like an 80% drop or something like that. Which I contributed to because I went the second week.
Right.
But I don't know. One thing I keep thinking about when reading, every time I see an article about somebody saying like, "Oh, the MCU is done, it's over, blah blah blah," or this sucks, retire this character, whatever. I think about there was a quote from what is Miss Marvel's actress's name? Is it Iman?
Oh fuck! I just gotta look it up. Iman Vellani or something. Yeah. Just
she had a fantastic quote about it, saying, "This is like she said ultimately the box office stuff is out of my hands, and there's not really a point for me to comment on it. What I really like to think about is that I'm really proud of the work we did in the movie, and I had fun making it, and I really like all the people we worked with. I think we did a good job, and I'm down with that. I'm cool with that. Like they're reflecting on the work they did. And I think it was a quality movie.
Okay.
And I think the hate is just built up over time. And maybe people are aging out of seeing these kind of movies and things like that, because these been going on 15, 16 years now. And the people who were seeing them are a lot older now. And maybe there's just not as many people interested anymore. And maybe the younger generation is just, they missed half of it. So they missed the initial impact of how insane it was.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter to them, maybe.
Wow. That put things in perspective. That's a good point. Like, could you imagine you're like 10 years old and you go to the theater to see the first Iron Man movie with Robert Downey Jr., right? And then when you're 20, right, you're like just in college maybe, or like you're in the middle of college, and then Endgame happens, right? And then you're like 25, and now you're like, maybe you're with like your significant other, and you're thinking about getting married and stuff, and you've gone this whole huge chunk of your life with these movies in your life.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. We kind of we were already at that point, sort of. Well, actually, no, 15 fucking years ago, I almost had my first kid. My first kid's 13.
Yeah,
but
I wasn't quite there yet. But
right. But that's the first time you've said the aging out thing. I haven't even thought about that like they're just kind of done with it.
Well, I keep noticing, like, I don't even want to get too much into generational differences and like that, but it just seems, you don't expect the younger generation or the newer generation to be so drastically different than you, but I think
Yeah.
they just are.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I think that is definitely something to consider when you look at these smaller box office returns.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different factors, but I definitely think that there is. I think that what happens in general is that it's almost like a snowball, and people start to make these points about movies or things in pop culture, and then everyone just adds to it and adds to it. And some people might be kind of neutral or in the middle, but they just feel the pressure to kind of, or not even the pressure, they just sort of want to be a part of that momentum. And I think that the momentum right now is Marvel is failing. Like Marvel's in trouble. And then what happens is you have people like you and I who we often frequently say there's superhero fatigue. I mean, you're kind of saying something like that right now, where people are sort of like over it if they've had too much of it. But then there's that whole other part of like YouTube and podcasts and stuff where their whole bread and butter, the way that they make money, is that they just talk about like woke, go broke, right? Like that's their whole shtick.
Yeah.
And they are always just looking for things. And this movie is just like, oh, they serve this to us on a platter. Oh my god, it's got Brie Larson and it's failing. Oh my god, you know,
Yeah.
they're just so excited. And I just, whenever I look at any kind of movie, I just always try to be subjective. I believe that's the right term, where it's just like I want to just see what it's like and see if it's good or not. And I was not bored with this movie at all. I really did think Iman Vellani was fantastic. I thought all the three leads were great. I think.
Absolutely.
What's that?
I'm agreeing with you. Everybody was great.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, okay. So if I'm going to nitpick or have problems, I did think it was kind of awkward when they went to the planet where everybody sings. What'd you think of that?
No, that's kind of throwing in that like Bollywoody kind of thing in there to tie it with Miss Marvel, even though it's an alien race and it's not on Earth. I actually like that a lot. But if I were to nitpick at the movie, it seems like the overall point here is that the villain Darben was trying to hurt all these places that had meaning to Carol. But I feel like this movie maybe would have been better, or this plot they used maybe would have been better if it happened later on, sort of. Like they would have given more time to Captain Marvel to do other things, because really her first movie is in the past. It's in the 90s. And then there's 30 years in between that. And we see very little of her in that time. So everything is kind of told like it's like an afterthought, or off screen.
Yeah.
And that kind of stinks, I think. I mean, it's not bad, but I wish we had more Captain Marvel to build on before we got to these things that meant to her. Like, imagine if there was a movie where you saw that she went to this planet or whatever like that, and it actually had some kind of attachment to it, or
Yes. Yes.
You can kind of argue that the planet where the Skrulls had relocated to, there's a slight attachment to that because you're more familiar with the Skrulls than you are than with her, really.
Very good point. Yes. Yes.
So there is a little bit there, but I think this story would have benefited having another movie under its belt first.
Yeah.
But again, that's like a nitpick, honestly. The other nitpick I would have too is that just the differences of Nick Fury in this movie and in Secret Invasion are pretty drastic to me. Like they feel like different characters, really.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Oh boy. Oh, you just gave me so much to work with right there, man. It's Thanksgiving already. So, okay. So let me ask you this: did you see the pitch meeting for this movie?
Oh, I have not yet. No, I haven't watched it.
Okay. Okay. One of the things, the guy who makes what is his name? Justin, the guy that makes the
George.
Jesus Christ. Wow. Okay. He makes this one joke of like, oh, Nick Fury, he's like all dark and brooding, right? From that show Secret Invasion. He's like, no, he's just making jokes all the time. He says something like that, right? You're 100% right how he's like a totally different character from Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
But I was you brought up such an awesome point of like, if there was just one other Captain Marvel movie between the first one and this one, man, that would make a huge difference. Like,
I think it would, yeah.
Like, because what if we had a movie where you got Monica Rambeau post WandaVision, but it's just her and Carol, and then in the third one you have Ms. Marvel too, and it's all three.
Yeah, you know? that could have worked. Yeah, I mean the weird thing is that Monica and Miss Marvel, they debuted fairly close together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess there's not really an opportunity to squeeze that in there, but yeah, that could have worked. But some of my favorite scenes in this movie were the kind of the scenes with Monica dealing with the absence of Carol in her life and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And the scene where they shared the memories and then they look back, that was like I actually brought a tear in my eye.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh man, so much to talk about with just that too. But like, um, what? Okay, with that, here's an interesting point too. People like our friend Danny from the Lasser cast. You know, Danny says, "I feel like I have to do homework to appreciate this movie," and the optimistic part of me, the part that loves Marvel so much, I'm like, oh, you can just go watch it and enjoy it, right? But I think he's kind of right. Like, we know who Monica is, and I think we appreciate Monica because we saw WandaVision,
Yes.
right? And then we definitely appreciate Ms. Marvel because we watched Ms. Marvel,
Yes.
you know? So, like, I think that those scenes hit better for us because we've watched all of this.
Yeah, but I mean, I think in terms of and they need to do it like this too, is that they need to expect you to have seen the things previously, uh, in order to properly build out these kind of things like this.
Yeah.
If everything was so standalone, like I don't think it would have worked as effectively. Like this whole superhero, as a genre, really.
No, I mean you're 1,000% right, and I kind of wanted to switch back to because I still love that point that you made about how like if you had an extra movie in the middle, if you really did have a movie that like, because you could almost have a movie that focuses on Carol being away and her having to make amends with Monica, right? Like that could be a whole movie. And do you remember in this movie when they start to find those eggs in the space station?
Yeah.
Did you immediately know that that was from the Flurkin, or did you think it was something else at any point?
The color was very similar to tentacles, so yeah, it was a pretty pretty easy guess.
Okay, see, I'm kind of dumb, and I saw these eggs, and I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" I'm like, "Is this something to do with like another reality or something coming in?" I didn't know, and then I was like, "Oh, could those be like the Brood?" I got like real excited. They could be the Brood, and I was like, "What if they had something like that?"
Oh my god! And that man, there was just the recent Captain Marvel comic that just wrapped up with Kelly Thompson. There was a big Brood arc at the end with the crossover with the X-Men too.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
would have been fantastic.
right. Because where did you see this movie? Did you see it at like a regular movie theater, or did you see it at Alamo?
It was a regular theater. Yeah, it was a Cinemark. I don't know if you even.
Yeah,
I barely even know what those are.
yeah. We have them here too. But sometimes I go to the Alamo, and Alamo does this great thing where they just have scenes from different cartoons. They make they show commercials. They just show, from going to the Alamo.
Yep.
And they did this one where they just basically showed Carol's appearances in all the animated shows, and they showed the X-Men cartoon, which is the very first time I ever saw Carol ever. Was the '90s X-Men cartoon? Was that you too, or no?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and of course that episode is really great. It always stands out in my mind. It's when Rogue steals her powers, and then Rogue can fly, and she's invulnerable. And I really think that that's the way that they should go in the MCU is play that up. Because one last thing, and I'll stop rambling, but I feel like a lot of this movie is a knee-jerk reaction to people not liking Brie Larson. And so they're like, instead of making a whole just Captain Marvel movie, we're going to bring in Ms. Marvel and Monica Rambeau. Do you agree, or
100%? There was a drastic knee-jerk reaction to her interviews on the tour for the thing, and she never got a chance to recover it really. I mean, and she's tried. She made her own YouTube channel and make her life a little more personable, I guess. But with the writer's strike and the actor strike, she wasn't allowed to even attempt to promote this movie, which probably hurt it too. So she still has that kind of mark against her from a kind of from that narrative from those interviews.
Yeah. And those interviews are pre-COVID, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, she's just totally screwed. And so I really think that what you said about if they had another movie between this, and maybe you took some of this movie and put it into that, you'd have a pretty satisfying trilogy right there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I mean, it sounds like they will have something else with Carol. I mean, they kind of have to, I think, at
Yeah.
some point down the line. And maybe they still will wrap it up in a satisfying way. But that's my kind of nitpick is that too much of Carol's story is told off panel that we
Yeah.
haven't seen, and there's such a large time frame for of things to have happened as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think that they had plans pre-COVID, post-Endgame, where there was going to be a team of new Avengers, and it was probably going to be like Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and some other characters. And Chadwick Boseman died, and COVID happened, and it just threw all that out.
Everyone hates Brie Larson.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, okay, there's basically three things I want to touch upon before we're done. First off, I want to talk about when the movie really kicked in and I started to enjoy it. Because in the very beginning, it was kind of jumping all over the place, and I was like, oh, this could be bad. But then there's this one scene that happens, and I'm like, oh, no, I'm on board. And it was when they started to jump between places, and it was a fight in Ms. Marvel's house. Was that when it kicked in for you too?
Well, you know what? Honestly, the first thing I saw, which is pretty early on in the movie, that really solidified it for me was like it was a really great shot of Carol's kind of floating in space before she goes to fly to the planet that the Kree are attacking. It just looked like a comic panel, and I'm like, this is a great visual, and I'm really happy to see this. And that kind of showed me something like that I wanted to see, and kind of perked me up a little bit, I'd say. But yeah, the movie definitely kicks in with that action scene where everybody's fighting and they're switching places and they don't really understand what's going on. And it was great.
Yeah. And like, so many people are like ragging on Nia DaCosta, and there's like this shit where they're like, oh, her first and only movie is this Candyman reboot that was a failure. I don't think that movie was a failure. I think it actually got a lot of critical praise. I remember sitting in the theater for this and seeing certain shots like the shot you just described, but then there's also shots where like Kree ships are like coming through portals and stuff. And I was like, that looks really good. Like a lot of the stuff that we see, I feel like it's just so generic with a lot of the modern Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
It like, I don't want to go off on a tangent on this, but like when you would used to watch like a Star Wars movie or something, you would see special effects and you'd be like, oh, this is so cool. And there are scenes like that in older Marvel movies, but not really the new stuff. This one had some shots like that.
Yes, and a lot of those shots made me like think about that. I want more cosmic Marvel things.
Right.
And all we've really seen with this is this movie and the Guardians movies, basically, and some parts of Infinity War and Endgame. But yeah, like there's a whole thing out there that I would love to see more of. Like give me Nova, throw in the Brood, give me all this stuff. Give me more of Kree and Skrull. Countless other things.
Right. Fuck yeah. And okay. So this actually brings up another point that I wasn't even going to mention, but like they kind of reference Quasar in this too.
Yes, with the quantum bands, right. That's what you mean. Yeah.
See, to me, that got me so excited because, first off, the quantum band stuff was kind of confusing in the Miss Marvel show. And then the idea is that like those are essentially Quasar's quantum bands. They're like mythical bands from the Kree Empire. And then like the person that used them, who I'm assuming is Quasar, made like the network that everyone uses to travel through space.
That was cool. That was a nice touch, I thought.
It's some great world building.
It is great world building, but at the same time, I'm so confused about how they're viewing multiple realities and view with the quantum bands as opposed to Loki. And Doctor Strange too. It's like three different versions, and Spider-Man. It's like four different versions of the multiverse that don't all completely line up exactly.
Right.
So that could have been a little tighter, I guess.
It's very convoluted, but I like the idea that like because Carol's powers are kind of connected to transporting too, because her powers are from the Tesseract. Even though she always seems like she's like a brawler and super strong, the Tesseract is the one that can like shoot you through space, And I just like the idea that they're all kind of connected. And then like they have that sort of that grid pattern when they open up gates through space. That's what, like in all the Guardians movies, they have that too.
Yeah, it's like that hexagonal thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it almost makes it like, oh, well, all of space essentially is like inside one gigantic dome. And then like if you were to puncture that, then you would go into another reality, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I like that. But so okay, so we talked about that one scene in the beginning, and there's multiple like great battle sequences with them just flipping around with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then here's the next thing I want to bring up. What did you think of Darbend?
Darbend could have been better, and again, would have benefited from being in another movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if she was just a side character.
Yeah.
You know, in a previous movie, I think that might have worked. But yeah, her motivation was there, I guess, for me, but it was just it felt like half baked in a sense. Like there wasn't enough investment in her to make it a good villain. She was a fairly forgettable villain.
And that's what most people say too, and that is one of the main jokes on the pitch meeting. Do you know anything about the actress that played her?
The only thing I know is that she's like dating Loki.
No, they're like together. They have like a kid together.
They have kid. Okay, they're married. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like kind of cool because she had the Marvels come out, and then there was the Loki finale, like all in the same week. You know?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I feel the exact same way about Darbend. So then the last point, and here we go. How fucking great was the last scene and the mid-credit scene?
Yes. This is where the movie sets up everything else moving forward here.
Yep.
I loved. Let's talk about the first one with Miss Marvel first. I loved how it was kind of parodying the initial scene with Nick Fury and Iron Man.
Right.
I absolutely loved that, and that was
right.
kind of goofy and silly. And I love that it started with Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel here.
So good.
We've been fantasy booking this for quite some time now. All the characters are out there for them to go get.
Yep.
You know, they name drop Cassie in this. You know, we can get Patriot here from Falcon Winter Soldier. We saw a glimpse of Kid Loki in the first season of Loki. Wiccan and Speed are out there in some capacity.
Sure, somewhere.
And you know, we have America Chavez. And that's already there is like two different iterations of the Young Avengers, which is fantastic. The only thing we're missing is that is kind of like Iron Lad.
But that could be Riri.
Oh yeah, Riri. Yeah, there you go. Riri's like the Iron Man stand-in. That's good. Yeah, this I'm so curious how they're going to present this.
Yes.
Is it going to be a show? Is it going to be a movie? Are they going to have their own movie? Or are they just going to be in some other movie as like a side piece of it?
Yeah. If they make this into a show and not a movie, I will be so fucking disappointed.
Yeah, I think I would be too. I think it's too many people to do it as a show, I think.
They need like a big budget movie to make a Young Avengers and just go all out. Did you have either of these two scenes spoiled for you?
No.
Oh,
well, okay. I mean, I knew something X-Men was coming from that last trailer where they linger on the X.
Yeah.
I knew something like that was coming.
Yeah. So I'm so happy. Good. Okay. Because I knew about the X-Men thing because I looked into that. I was like, okay, what's going on there? And then I found out about Beast and stuff. So I knew that whole scene completely. Yeah. But then when fucking Kate Bishop shows up, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. Yeah. This is worth the ticket price right here. I was so happy.
Yeah.
You know, just for people that have just watched this for the first time, Kate Bishop's one of mine and Brian's favorite, like top 10 Marvel characters. So so happy to have her in there. And they just did that scene so perfectly. I love how like Ms. Marvel's like, I'm putting together this team of teenagers. And she's like, I'm 23. I love that.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go into the X-Men one. So do they mention incursions in this movie at all?
I don't think so, but that's what's going to be setting up here. That's what's going to happen is that, you know, Monica is in this other reality, which is the Fox X-Men universe. I'm assuming this is long before Logan happens, because Beast doesn't look too much older than he did in X3.
Right.
And then we also have Maria, who has, this is now the second time we've seen a Maria with Captain Marvel-esque powers, but as binary, which was another nice, cool little nod.
Right. Because the first time's in Multiverse of Madness, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Right. Right. So I'm just trying to think. Like he mentions Charles, right?
Yes.
He says Charles wants like a report or something like that. And I think you're 1,000% right. I think that this movie, or this scene, I'm sorry, it's like right around the time when Logan wakes up at the end of Days of Future Past. Do you know what I'm talking about?
When Logan, okay, yeah. So you think it's the altered timeline of Days of Future Past? Okay.
And then okay, so this is kind of, I feel like a goofy man asking this question, but like, do you feel like the X-Men First Class movies that are like, First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and then I guess fucking what's the last one that's horrible called?
Dark Phoenix.
Oh, it's just called Dark Phoenix, right? Do you feel like those movies lead up to that?
I mean, yes, I do.
Okay.
There's a billion reasons why they shouldn't and
Right,
can't,
right.
but I think they do.
Okay. So then, and then assuming that, then like maybe a couple years after that is Logan. Then
I would say Logan's a bit further on.
Yeah.
And I guess we're gonna get maybe a different or oh no, because they said about Deadpool 3 that the movie wouldn't impact Logan, like it would still exist after whatever.
Yeah.
I would say that it's probably shortly after the Days of Future Past retcon.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range there. But I would say Logan would probably be a good 10, 15 years later at least.
Okay, well, let me ask you this though. Do you think that the time that they're in right now with Monica Rambeau and her mom, that's essentially the same time as the MCU, and like that's where it would be with the X-Men movies too?
You mean the old X-Men movies?
Yeah. Like essentially, what I'm getting at is like, I'll let you answer 1 sec, but like in Days of Future Past, it's implied that Wolverine wakes up in the future because he's alive in the future, but it's not the Days of the Past future. It's like this fixed future. And what I'm saying is that fixed future, because that movie came out a long time ago, is that the present day MCU time then?
Yeah, I would say that when Logan wakes up, it's the same time as that, as the dystopian future with the Sentinels and all that, but it's just different.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, I would say it's later on. I don't think they ever the original 3 X-Men movies ever date themselves, with a particular time, but I do associate them with the early 2000s. I mean, just because that's when they came out and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's a good yeah. So we're in the God, what are we, 2025, 2026 in the movies?
Something like that.
Something like that.
So then that works for like the X-Men movies then too.
Yeah, I think so.
That's kind of exciting, yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, though, I think this is just going to be a giant send off of it. It's not going to be. They're not going to continue on with those X-Men. Like this is like a rallying last hurrah to me of the Fox X-Men stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I've mentioned this one channel, Emergency Awesome, and they reference. I mean, they've done videos on all the stuff we're talking about, and they're basically saying that they think that instead of it being like the Ultimate Universe and the Marvel Universe colliding, which leads to Secret Wars, it's going to be the MCU and the X-Men universe colliding.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Oh, and so people are sitting there saying like, "Oh, Marvel sucks, Marvel's failing, blah blah blah," but it's like that's really fucking exciting.
Yeah, it is. They have an opportunity to kind of reboot everything, honestly, and that's really exciting. And I hope this trend of people hating, turns around when the X-Men come back and it's cool again.
Fuck yeah! So I know that we usually do like a ranking and stuff, but you were saying that you kind of need to redo your ranking.
Yeah, I need to reevaluate everything again. I think my bottom few will probably stay there. And my top few will probably stay there, but I need the middle is always so hard. And I would put this movie somewhere in the middle, maybe the higher up, I would say in the middle, but somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I have it at 14 out of 33. So
yeah, that's probably approximately where I would put it as well.
You and I, man, great minds. So yeah, I guess that's it for our Marvels discussion. This is going to come out on Wednesday, so I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I think me and Brian might have done that last time too, but in case you missed it, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to y'all. Brian, I am thankful that you are my friend and that I get to see you every week to talk about this stuff too.
For almost 3 years now, we've been doing this.
Holy shit!
Well, we were saying the other day, if from the initial recordings was like 3, but the actual podcast is only like 2 something. So,
there you go. Okay, yeah, because we started doing it on ANCHORPETE. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess what we have coming up is we have one more episode of Invincible, and then there's something else that's like right on the horizon too, right?
Aquaman at the end of December.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do.
All right. Well,
actually, you know what? I would like. I kind of want to mention this on the side earlier. Did you ever watch the Scott Pilgrim movie or ever read those manga things?
I didn't read the comics, but I definitely watched the movie. Yes.
I started watching the new Netflix series, and I'm it's not what I expected, and it's very interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, I reckon I don't even want to say anything, but just get to the end of the first episode. I would say if you want to give it a shot.
Okay. I can do that. Maybe that might be something that we tackle. You know, guys, if you ever have recommendations for me and Brian to talk about, send them our way too, because we like to hear from you guys too. But until then, we'll do Invincible next time. And thanks for listening to us talk about the Marvels.